Welcome back to CryptosRUs. I am George. We're all George. So, what did Jerome Powell just say to bring down Bitcoin? Not just Bitcoin, but entire U.S. market. So he was just testifying in front of Senate. It was like 2 hours long. Okay, and I'm going to summarize what he said exactly that spooked traders, and also give you, of course, an update on the Russian invasion front, and of course talk about Bitcoin. So smash up the like, subscribe to the channel, make sure you hit that notification bell to get updated and notified on my 3 daily streams, and follow me on social media, and check out all the latest news, article, and guides at CryptosRUs.com, including articles about altcoins. I've been getting asked a lot about what is Terra? What is UST? What is Solana? What is Cardano? If you want to know about them, check out the articles on CryptosRUs.com. All right, welcome. Hopefully you guys are hanging in there. I think you should be. I think a lot of you guys are tuning in because you're wondering what just made Bitcoin go down from 44,000 back down to 42.5. Right? It was unexpected. I don't know if it's unexpected, to be honest. I mean, we were holding between 42.7 and 44.5 for what? Maybe a week. Okay, and we got used to that. But I want to remind you guys, I did say there's going to be uncertainty for sure. We're not out of the cloud of uncertainty, and there's a lot that's causing it. Right? So let's start out with what just happened with this. So I forgot, because Chair Powell did testify in front of the House just a day prior. And then I forgot that he was going to testify in front of the Senate committee, which he did. And this was 2 hours long. And I feel sorry for Powell because he was not grilled, but asked by 20 senators. And they all asked the same questions. There's no reason why you need to answer a question, the same question, like 20 times. Every single senator that asked Powell a question, it all related to what is he going to do due to the invasion. That's the number one question. Second question is, what are you going to do about inflation? Right? And then what does this have to do with the Fed reducing its balance sheet? So basically, every single senator asked the 3 same questions in different ways, and sometimes not even different ways, just the same way, flat out asking the same thing. It seems like none of them were listening to each other, or because they just want to fill the airtime. I don't know. But what he said today was the same as what he said yesterday, which is what he said the same 2 months back. Nothing has changed. Okay? So number one, he's going to raise rates in March. That has not changed. Okay? Now, just yesterday, he believed, I think yesterday or maybe a week ago, he said it was going to be 25 basis points. That is what he's aiming for. Okay? So he's sticking with that. He's going to start reducing the balance sheet of the Fed after rate hike starts going. That was already said months ago. And he's been asked about Ukraine and the Russian invasion. What is going to happen, right, with that? Well, he has no answer to that. What happens if oil continues to go up? What happens if there's, relief efforts, right? More money that's being given to Ukraine. What is going to happen if other commodities start going up, energy sector going up? How is that going to affect his decision? Well, he can't answer any of those things because we just started, and he doesn't have anything to say about that right now. He's like, well, after a first rate hike, we'll be very watchful of the situation and taking a look at, how things develop, and then we'll adjust accordingly. I mean, that's the only thing he can say, right? He can't say anything else because he doesn't have a time machine. He can't tell what's going to happen by the end of the year. Right? but it was frustrating to watch. I was trying to watch this, and every single senator asked the same darn questions, and there was no answer. There was nothing new. Nothing new came out of this. Not one single piece of information what was new, yet the market reacted negatively. Like as if the interest rate coming in March, which I've been talking about for months now, as if that was a surprise. No, nothing to do nothing to do with anything, really. I mean, I take that back. Nothing new, I should say. But unfortunately, when he started testifying, that's when things started coming down, right? So that, first of all, I just want to talk about that. If you look at U.S. markets right now, like NASDAQ is starting to turn red, very, very red, and that usually happens whenever there's talks about rate hikes and it's starting again, right? So I don't know. It could just be, it could just be a big trap. I don't know. Maybe the Wall Street traders are just, making it seem very bearish, to try to get more retail out of this space so they can accumulate more, right? It could be something like that, because there was nothing that he said today that came as a surprise. Nothing new, no new information, not him being more hawkish, nothing like that. So I don't know what, what's going on right now, but maybe it's just some traders are trying to scare people out right now. So that's the update on that. So what did he really say to bring down Bitcoin? Nothing, absolutely nothing. But it did. So let's just start with that. Now, the second thing is, of course, the invasion. There doesn't seem to be any good news on this right now. I'm going to be honest. I mean, I've been paying attention to a lot of developments, and I've been sharing with you guys as much as I can. And right now, there doesn't seem to be anything good. So there is a second round of talks, okay? But most likely, this is going to end up in nothing, okay? With nothing. And what's worse is the French president, Emmanuel Macron, he just had a conversation with Putin, a 90-minute conversation with Putin himself. And after this call, he believes that things are about to get worse. Okay? That's very telling. This is directly from the man, Putin, that is leading the invasion. And if the French president is coming out and saying that after this 90-minute call, things are about to get worse, well, it's going to get worse, right? And the phone call was very pessimistic, not so friendly, and basically Putin told him, it's all according to my plan. I've already anticipated this, and this is what's happening, right? So this makes me feel like things are going to get worse. I mean, there's no reason for French president to be lying about this, and he's talking directly with Putin, right? Zelensky's been asking to speak to Putin, but Putin won't talk to him. So that's the issue. So all this talk about ceasefire, this is just this is going to equate to nothing. This is just a show. It's not going to equate to anything. So unfortunately, when it comes to the war with the invasion, it's going to get worse. If you want to hear the call, I mean, it's in French. You guys can look it up. There's plenty of videos with the French president talking about this, right? So unfortunately, this makes me think that this is going to get worse. It's going to get worse before it gets better. All right. And then, Britain and others in EU, they're trying their best, trying to put sanctions and stopping these Russian oligarchs, and trying to lock them down and confiscating their yachts and stuff like that. But none of this stuff is really doing anything to sway Putin, unless there's so much, I don't know, there's so much hate, I guess, or so much that's, how should I put it? If I guess Putin loses the trust of his people, including the rich oligarchs and the generals and overall population, that may be one way Putin backs down. Okay, maybe. But in the meantime, Ukraine, they're still fighting away, doing what they can, asking for more help. I believe Zelensky asked for air support in terms of planes, right? And they've been taking a lot of donations, and it seems like their next move is to actually unveil NFTs. And the proceeds, obviously, for NFTs will be to support their military efforts, right? So a lot of people have been asking me why, is NFTs like Beanie Babies? Well, no, this is another use case for NFTs that you can't do with Beanie Babies or anything else that's not on the blockchain and that isn't digital, right? And you could do it for this reason too now, right? There's a lot of reasons you could use NFTs for, but anyways, this is one of them. Yeah, so that's the latest with the war. So this guy right here, oops, it disappeared. But oh boy, okay, here we go. So this guy right here, James Landell, was a diplomatic correspondent. He wrote 5 scenarios on how the war could end. So I thought it was kind of interesting. So I'm just going to summarize it. Number 1 is short war. Okay? Putin ups his devastating attacks. Basically, Kyiv falls, Kharkiv falls, Zelensky falls, and basically they take over, and then they instill a puppet regime, and then they leave, right? And the puppet regime will probably get ousted in the near future, but that may be a scenario leading to a short war. Long war would be that this goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on, right? And eventually Russia just gives up because after a few years of fighting, there's just no point. So this is indicating a long war in the years. Right now, it does not seem like that's going to be the case because Russia still has not deployed most of their heavy artillery into Ukraine yet. So if they wanted to, they could definitely make sure it's not a long war, it's a short war. European war could be that Putin starts sending troops to all the ex-Soviet countries, right? And if that starts happening, well, then Europe and NATO, they're going not like that, and they're going to have to really decide whether or not they stay neutral or they're going to get involved, right? And that's going to lead to World War III, and that's not going to be good. I don't think Putin's going to be doing that, but who knows? If they take over Ukraine, maybe that's their next move. Diplomatic solution in terms of a ceasefire, right? That doesn't seem like that's going to come, especially not after this last conversation with President Macron. And then lastly was the one I talked about, like Putin is ousted, right? If the oligarchs are losing too much, if the citizens are resisting too much, if even the army in general start believing that they are not doing the right thing and they're giving up too, well, then maybe Putin is ousted. But this is very unlikely at this point, as he has a firm control over all things Russia. So, but anyways, thought I'd summarize these 5 things, just to throw that out there. What could be happening with this war and how it may end. Still not a good situation. About to get worse, it seems like, at least according to French President Macron. There's still a lot of sanctions. Finally, Binance is now saying they will not accept credit cards of sanctioned Russian banks, but this is just credit cards. Binance still is open to Russia, right? And I get, as a company, as a Western company, you have responsibilities, right? That's why you see all these car manufacturers, credit cards, even game makers, there was another one, Sabre, which helps with air destinations and booking and stuff like that. Everyone's like removing themselves from Russia, right? And Binance has not recently, until this, at least credit cards, but not bank transfers. But here's the thing, though, and right now, this war with Russia and Ukraine, It's really Putin's war, right? It's not Russia's war. Because I've been saying the Russian citizens, they're getting hurt a lot. You know, Russian citizens, if they want to protect their wealth, you know what? They're going to try to buy Bitcoin and crypto, right? So, you know, why should you punish the citizens of Russia that are not for war? And there's many, I would argue, majority of Russians don't want the war to happen because they're seeing their dollar devalue to nothing, their investments in stocks devalue to nothing, and now they are limited in terms of what they can do. They can't escape, they can't move out, they can't move their money out, they can't get money, they can't do pretty much anything. And all the goods and services are being stopped too, right? So they're turning to Bitcoin as they should, but you know, if all the exchanges and everyone starts cutting them off, well, then they're going to be a really bad situation. So I know there's a lot of FUD around Binance because their decision to still service Russia. But, you know, I'm looking at the citizens, right? They have to, you have to give them option, at least a Bitcoin option. And at least that's what Binance is doing until now. Now, they're not accepting credit cards, but I do think they're still accepting bank transfers, which will probably be shut down soon too because, you know, the EU and Switzerland and the US, they're basically going to shut SWIFT down for most of the banks and basically freeze all assets. So pretty soon, depending on where Binance is operating, they may be forced to freeze assets of all Russian citizens too. So that is something to think about also. I don't know if that's coming, but yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So anyways, if you're a Russian citizen, it just really sucks right now, all around. I mean, that's bottom line. This is Putin's war, not Russia's war. It's Putin's war, and Russians are getting financially destroyed, while Ukrainians are actually getting destroyed. So that, you know, I don't want to make it seem like Russians have the worst. Ukrainians have it the worst by far right now. So, all right. So what else is there? If any of you guys need a reminder of why Bitcoin is the best hedge against inflation and why Russians and Ukrainians and everyone should be buying Bitcoin, and anyone that's afraid of what the Fed is going to do, I mean, this is an example, okay? I mean, this should clear all things up. People always look at short-term, week-to-week, month-to-month, whatever. Look at it over a course of the last 10 years, okay? Had you bought Bitcoin the first year, maybe you lost out at 11%. Gold went up 12% that year. S&P went up 16%. But look at starting from year 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way now to year 10. Bitcoin has gone up 876,000% versus gold's 14%, which is still lower than year 9, year 8, year 7, year 6, year 5. It's still lower than all those years except year 2. So gold has stayed flat. S&P has gone up 224% in the last 10 years. That's not bad. But versus Bitcoin, nothing has appreciated, gone up as much. Nothing. No stock, not gold, no commodities, no indexes, no markets at all has gone up as much as Bitcoin, which is why Bitcoin is the greatest asset that we have, the greatest hedge against inflation, the greatest store value, the greatest investment, greatest payment network out there, right? The greatest of a lot of things. But in case you're not buying this argument that Bitcoin is a good hedge against inflation, just look at this. There's no better way. There's no better way to hedge against inflation. All right, what else is there? Retail investors are coming back. It does show the addresses holding less than 30 days is rapidly increasing with the price. This, of course, makes sense. Unfortunately, these kind of retailers, though, not retailers, retail interests, they tend to be flaky. They go up and down with the market, trying to be reactive, trying to time the market. But yeah, whenever things go up, of course, you know, FOMO hits and all these retail investors come in, right? But what I try to do and what I try to make you guys focus on is long term. It's great that we draw in new interest, but we need to keep people here. We need to make them realize why Bitcoin is the answer, right? And why it's the greatest investment ever, and why you need to hold on and have patience and not try to swing trade and guess, because that's how you get wrecked, and most people do when they try to outsmart the market, right? The surest way to win is to buy low and sell high and have patience. The longer you hold, the more you make. It's really that simple. But anyways, just want to bring that out there. What else is there? I saw this. First movers. Fed hikes could drive Bitcoin adoption in emerging markets. I had to really understand this to really kind of explain this, but it makes a whole lot of sense. Whenever we've been talking about Powell and his rate hikes, whenever rate hike starts happening, what happens is in emerging markets, they tend to have their dollar, their fiat, devalue against the dollar. The dollar starts showing strength. So whenever that happens, these emerging markets, well, a lot of the investors will want to invest in the dollar or invest in American-based, derivatives or products, like treasury bonds or stocks or whatever. But a lot of these emerging markets, there's capital controls. So the country only allows you to do so with an X amount of money. You can't do it with an unlimited amount of money. And as a country as a whole, they also have these controls. So a lot of these countries end up in a situation where they want to invest more, but they can't. They're limited, right? So what can they do? Well, they can invest in Bitcoin, and they can invest in Ethereum, and they can invest in crypto right now, right? So that's what this is arguing, and it could be the case. I mean, we're seeing a lot of adoption already within Latin American countries, also within Africa, and within Asia, right? They're already starting, even without the rate hikes, right? Even without this happening. But as rate hikes happen and things are driven up and other currencies devalue against the dollar, which already is devaluing in front of our eyes, so you got to think, they're going to be suffering more. So what can you do? Well, again, you buy the greatest asset that we have, right? Which is Bitcoin, up 876,000% in the last 10 years. Makes a whole lot of sense. What else is there? Yeah, I mentioned about the Ruble collapse. The Ruble has collapsed so much, I can't even keep track with it. Most of the chart seems to have stabled out, but yeah, it sucks. So if you're holding out a ton of Ruble, what are you going to do? Okay, if Russia does not allow you to convert Ruble into USD or any other currency, what do you go do? You buy Bitcoin with it. And then lastly, I just want to mention, this came out recently. There's a lot of talk about Metamask now blocking transactions from Venezuela due to compliance, right? And normally this would not be a bad thing, except that almost everyone in the industry thought that Metamask, because it is a non-custodial browser wallet, that it should be open to all. But the fact that they could start blocking certain countries from using it means that they're not completely decentralized, which is very unfortunate. So there's a lot of fun that's being spread around on Twitter right now. It's an unfortunate thing, but MetaMask is the biggest browser-based wallet by far, especially ones especially one that's compatible with so many chains. The most widely used, of course, by Ethereum holders and for OpenSea and others, right? But this is coming out, and it's an unfortunate thing. So unfortunately, this compliance, that they're trying to follow, right? This could definitely open up to Russia and blocking Russian citizens from using it. And unfortunate that it's going to be cutting off, Russian citizens or other countries that really want to utilize Bitcoin for good to protect themselves, right? And unfortunately, that may be coming. So it's an unfortunate situation. So there you go. All right. Outside of that, really nothing else going on. I mean, despite the fact that Bitcoin fell from 44 down to where it is now, right? keep in mind this is not all that bad. Not all that bad. It's a little bit of a retracement, but let's not forget where Bitcoin was just a few weeks ago, right? Obviously still up quite a lot. And of course, most of the altcoins have rallied significantly within the last few weeks. So not all of those gains have disappeared. In fact, there are some that are still holding very strong. For example, you look at Ethereum, slightly under 3,000, but they were as low as what, 25, 24, 2,300 not too long ago. Terra is still hovering around 90. They got as low as, I was told, $50 recently. Solana got down to the 70s, right? So most of these are still up significantly within the last week or so. And we'll see. We'll see with more Fed talk, with more rate hike talk, with of course, more Russian invasion talk. We'll see where all this goes. But right now, there's still definitely a lot of uncertainty out there. All right, let's do some Q&A. J. Diddy argues, George, as long as Putin runs Russia, it's Russia's war. Yes, I know that. It is still Russia's war, but it's really commanded by one person, right? That was my point. Rolf Sauer argues, during the zombie apocalypse, you could put gold in a bag and attack people that try to steal your food. First of all, you need to have a significant amount of gold to do that. And second of all, if we do have a zombie apocalypse, I think bullets and guns and food and water will be the most valuable commodities, right? Not gold and probably not Bitcoin at that point if we have a zombie apocalypse. It's Macron. Jin World says it's Macron. I've heard other people say Macron, so that's why I just said it like that, but it could be Macron. It's just like how people pronounce Kyiv. Ukrainians call it Kyiv. Other people call it Kiev. I just call it Kyiv. I don't know. As long as I'm somewhat close. Bitcoinologist is complaining about the most dishonest thumbnail I ever used. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? I have a picture of the war, which I talked about. I have Powell, which I have talked about, and Bitcoin. I have no idea what you're trying to say. Okay. I hate Metamask. I mean, Metamask was pretty darn good until this thing about blocking Venezuelans, right? That's going down a slippery slope. So that's the unfortunate thing. It is still the most widely used browser-based wallet we have. But of course, there are other options. A lot of other chains have their own. None nearly as big as MetaMask, though. API 3, not a fan of. Just go with Chainlink. Do you see any risk in parking USDC in Vauld? I mean, there's always risk. Anything that gives you interest has risk, but it's minimal. Vauld is overseas. They've been around for years. They're smaller, obviously, compared to BlockFi, Celsius, Nexo, but I've been using it myself so far. Been pretty good. It's an easy to use interface. I've been getting my interest every single week, and they have some terrific rates. Absolutely terrific rates right now. with stablecoin, with Polygon, and also, in fact, yeah, actually, I just got this. I should, since you guys asked for it. If you're Axie holder, Axie holders get 24% now on Vauld for a limited time for a month. So that's also pretty fantastic. One of the reasons why I partner up with them is they have more offerings and the rates are pretty darn good. So check them out. And they also allow you to trade, and they have a really simple DCA tool that allows you to buy based on a certain percentage drop or buy scheduling. So they call it AIP. It's pretty cool. Josh asks, how much of your portfolio is in ADA? I don't know. I do have a good amount of ADA, but on a grand scheme of things, maybe, I mean, I'm pretty spread out. I have maybe like 20 holdings at this point. Probably a little bit more. Cardano, I can't tell you. Probably like, if I had to guess, probably under 5% at this point. But don't take that as a bad thing because many of my holdings are around that. Could you sell merch? I do have merch, mostly t-shirts, and you could see it. It's linked in CryptosRUs.com and also below the live chat. Phantom prediction, I like Phantom. I don't need to give a prediction. I just like them. I think they're undervalued. Anchor Protocol is fantastic. Very fantastic. And their rates are fantastic too. I mean, Terra created Anchor basically to provide 20% APY on staking. But not only that, you can use Anchor to borrow too, which I don't advise, but you can. There's a lot of interesting things you could do. You know, you have to get bonded Luna. Basically, you bond Luna, then you could borrow against it and get Anchor. And then with that Anchor, you can then trade for UST, which then you can put down as collateral, or you could stake it in Anchor. I mean, there's a lot of things you could do with Anchor and UST. AIOZ, I'm not that familiar with. Logan asks, if sanctions do affect our inflation number, when do you think it'll start to show? Pretty soon. Pretty soon. I mean, oil prices have started to go up already. Looks like the market's recovering a little bit, but oil price above 110. There's no major sanctions against Russian oil yet, but I know it's going to come, right? When oil and natural gas sanctions start happening and countries are going to stop buying from Russia, that's when things will really start going up. So we haven't really seen the full extent of that yet, but it'll come. Not in a good way. But this is why all the senators kept asking about this with Powell. But he's like, I can't answer that. I don't know. I don't know how things will get, how bad things will. I mean, we just have to be very reactive towards that. But, they kept grilling him on the same thing over and over and over again. And he's like, I can't answer it right now. So we don't know. ICP, I'm not a fan of ICP. Not a fan at all. Roshan says, Bitcoin is not the greatest payment network. XRP is. Okay, Roshan. That's why XRP is still nowhere close to its all-time high. It's probably the only crypto that's within the top 100 that's nowhere close to all-time high, while everything else has formed a new all-time high. And this lawsuit that continues on with the SEC, that's not gonna end anytime soon. And even when it does, there's no one using XRP. All these big companies, supposedly Ripple has, that partner up with like American Express and all these companies. Any of them using XRP? The answer is no. Not one is using XRP. This is why I'm neutral on XRP. I've never been bullish on XRP. But just for you, I have a great video about Ripple and XRP though. So just for you, I will show it to you at the end of the stream. Do I hold that chain link? Yes, I do. In order to have a well-balanced portfolio, how many crypto do you recommend holding? There's no right or wrong answer. That's like asking how much should you hold, or how much cash should you hold. I mean, it's all up to you. It's different for everyone. You could just have one. You could just be holding Bitcoin and that's it. I just think that's not advisable. I think you should have, some altcoins, but you could have just 2, just Bitcoin, Ethereum. You could have 5, including just some of the major projects, right? You could have 10, 20. There's really no right or wrong answer. You just have to make sure you can keep up with your portfolio. That's all, right? Sometimes you got to make adjustments. Sometimes maybe you get in a small cap, a micro cap, it's just not right for you, right? You got to be able to keep up and make adjustments. UST will flip USDT. I mean, one day it could. The growth of UST is astronomical. It was just 10 billion not too long ago. Now it's 13 billion. Pretty soon, it's gonna be at like 20 billion, and then 25, and it'll be half of USDC. It's going up by leaps and bounds. And the more this goes up, and I just covered this. Do Kwon wants to make Terra backed by Bitcoin. It already is $1 billion worth, but rumors are that he's going to do something, have it so that it automatically buys Bitcoin based on the market cap, which will be crazy if he can make that happen. So, yeah, that would be fantastic. That would be fantastic. All right, guys, I'll let you guys go. Overall, a lot of uncertainty right now, okay? A lot of uncertainty based on what Fed Powell said. I mean, actually, he didn't say anything new, so I don't know why this caused Bitcoin and markets going down. But anyways, we do have Fed rate hikes. That's coming. We can look forward to that. Balance sheet being sold off. We can look forward to that. But there's a lot of uncertainty with the invasion, and President Macron does not think it's gonna get better. It's gonna get worse. So that's not good. But with all that said, Bitcoin is the answer. The best way to handle uncertainty is just continue the course. You continue to hodl. You continue to DCA over long haul and buy the dips, and that's it. We will get through this. We will get through it, right? And once we do, we'll contain that life-changing wealth together. But in the meantime, there's going to be a lot of uncertainty. You're going to hear a lot of stuff, a lot of FUD. Stay strong. Stay strong. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Smash the like, subscribe to the channel. I will see you guys tonight, 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. In the meantime, since someone argued that Ripple is the greatest payment network ever in the history of mankind, here's a very educational video about Ripple. All right? Take care. Bye-bye.
What do you think about Ripple?
Well, I mean, I think it's too centralized, but I definitely want to meet Chris Larson.